2014, a team of scientists examining a 52,000-year-old skull. They weren't looking for battle wounds. They weren't looking for animal attacks. They found something far more disturbing, deliberate holes drilled into the teeth by human hands. 52,000 years ago, before agriculture existed, before any civilization, before writing, someone was performing dental surgery on a fully conscious patient with a stone drill and no anesthesia. The question is not how they drilled. The question is, what drove them to it? The answer is something every single person watching this has felt, and the story of how ancient humans survived it will permanently change how you look at that small white pill in your medicine cabinet. Before anyone tried to treat tooth pain, they needed to understand what was causing it, and for 2,500 years, the greatest medical minds on Earth agreed on one answer: a worm. Babylon, 1800 BCE. The oldest dental text ever found describes a creature, small and invisible, living inside your jaw, burrowing through bone, eating you from the inside. The tooth worm. This wasn't superstition. This was the best available science based on careful observation. Teeth had holes. Something had made those holes. Something had been there. The theory was logical. It was wrong. But it lasted 2,500 years. From Babylon to Greece to Rome to medieval Europe, every civilization on Earth believed a living creature was eating their teeth, and the treatments they invented to stop it were the stuff of nightmares. Fumigation, burning specific herbs directly into the open mouth to smoke out the worm. Incantations spoken directly into the tooth. Be cursed, O worm. May E smite you with his powerful fist. A Babylonian prayer recited over a painful tooth in 1800 BCE. Magical tablets inscribed with anti-worm formulas pressed directly against the jaw. Now here's where it gets extraordinary. The herbs they burned, some of them had genuine antimicrobial properties. The smoke killed bacteria they didn't know existed, for the completely wrong reason, with a partially correct result. They were right about but incantations alone weren't enough, and the people who understood this were not scientists. They were people in enough pain to try anything. And in trying everything, they found something real. Here's what makes this extraordinary. They were not making guesses. They were conducting experiments. Generation after generation, testing plants on real pain, recording what worked, and passing it down. The result was a pharmaceutical system built entirely from desperation that modern science has spent 200 years reverse engineering. Cloves, used in ancient China and India for over 2,000 years, ground into paste and pressed directly onto the aching tooth. The active compound. Eugenol, a natural anesthetic and antibacterial agent so effective that modern dentists still use it today in temporary fillings and root canal treatments. The ancient healer didn't know what eugenol was. He just knew that when he pressed this paste into a screaming patient's mouth, the screaming stopped. Garlic, Egypt, Rome, India, China. 4 civilizations with no contact with each other, all crushing garlic and pressing it onto painful teeth. The active compound, allicin, a powerful antimicrobial that kills the specific bacteria responsible for dental infection. Modern research has confirmed what ancient healers observed across thousands of years. Garlic works, not because of the worm theory. Despite it, willow bark. And this is the one that should stop you cold. Used across Europe, Asia, and the Americas by cultures separated by oceans for thousands of years for pain relief. Chewed directly, pressed against aching areas. The active compound. Salicin, which the human body converts to salicylic acid, which is the chemical basis of aspirin. Every civilization on Earth independently found the same plant and used it for the same purpose because it worked. 3,500 years before Bayer put it in a white tablet and sold it as a scientific breakthrough, your ancestors were already chewing it in desperate, terrified empirical research conducted in the dark, with nothing but pain as their guide. Pakistan, 7000 BCE, a burial site called Mehrgarh. When archaeologists excavated the graves, they found teeth with perfectly drilled holes in them. Not decay patterns, not damage. Deliberate, precise, circular boreholes. Someone 9,000 years ago was drilling teeth, not with metal, not with electricity, but with a bow drill, the same tool used to start fires, applied to a human mouth with extraordinary precision. The holes show evidence of decay removal. The edges are clean. Some teeth show traces of beeswax filling applied afterward. Now picture what this actually looked like. A patient sitting completely still because movement meant the flint-tipped drill slipped into the jaw, into the tongue, into somewhere it absolutely could not go. No anesthesia, no numbing agent, just the cloves pressed in beforehand, if they had them, and the absolute necessity of remaining motionless while someone drilled into a live nerve. 9,000 years ago, before the wheel, before writing, before any civilization we recognize, someone sat down, looked at another human being's agony, and said, "I can fix this," and then drilled. But the world's most sophisticated ancient dental system wasn't in Pakistan, it was in Egypt. A hieroglyphic inscription from 2600 BCE bears a title that had never existed before anywhere on Earth, Hesi Ra, chief of dentists and physicians, the world's first named dentist. But Egypt didn't just have dentists, Egypt had research. The Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BCE, contains 9 specific dental prescriptions for loose teeth, for gum disease, for pain, for infection. But buried inside this papyrus is something nobody expected: a filling, a prescription for a paste applied to a cavity to prevent further decay. 3,500 years ago, the Egyptians invented the filling, not in a 19th century dental office, but in ancient Egypt, by researchers desperate enough to try anything and disciplined enough to write down what worked. But sometimes the cloves didn't work, the garlic didn't work, the willow bark didn't work, the filling had failed or had never been applied, the infection was spreading, the pain was total. And then came the last option, the one nobody wanted: extraction. In medieval Europe, the tooth puller was not a doctor, he was a performer. He set up in the town square on a wooden stage in front of a crowd, and the band played, not for entertainment, to drown out the screaming, because there was going to be screaming. Your neighbors held you down, not to be cruel, but because when the instrument gripped you. Did ancient humans survive tooth pain? They burned herbs into open mouths to smoke out a worm that didn't exist, and accidentally killed bacteria they didn't know were there. They pressed cloves and garlic onto screaming patients and discovered compounds that modern dentistry still depends on. They chewed willow bark in desperation and invented aspirin 3,500 years early. They drilled live teeth with stone tools and created dentistry 9,000 years before anyone gave it a name. And when all of that failed, they sat in a public square, held down by their neighbors while a band played and a man with no medical training did what had to be done. The small white pill you reach for when your jaw aches took 300,000 years of human suffering to create. Every plant that went into it was discovered by someone in agony. Every technique that preceded it was developed in desperation. Every filling, every drill, every extraction was performed by someone who understood, at a level we have forgotten, that pain is not just pain. Pain is the pressure that creates invention. And the most extraordinary thing about ancient humans is not that they suffered, it's that they refused to accept suffering as inevitable. They reached for whatever was available: plants, drills, stone tools, strange pastes, desperate prayers, and they built, from nothing but necessity, the foundation of everything in your medicine cabinet. You live in an age of miracles so ordinary that you swallow them without thinking. Your ancestors would have called them magic.